Welcome to another edition of FUTStock, where we discuss all things FIFA Ultimate Team. I am Matt Aguilera.
And I am Matt Metz-Lambourne.
And well, this week it's been quite interesting. We're going to talk about the weekend league, of course, but there is one piece of information you do need to know. Our schedule. This is our episode, and we'll be back around Christmas time. There's 2 weeks away for Mr. Metz, who has some work commitments he needs to look to. I think actually what it is, he's a spy, or he's been hired to be the new Crime Watch presenter with his stolen passes and friends.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Now, I'm actually being sent to Prague on a scouting mission for when they re-include the Czech League into Ultimate Team. How good would that be?
Well, I can't imagine it'd be very good, actually. I mean,
you're not a fan of Slaven Liberec and Dukla Prague?
No, I'm not. I'm a fan of Jan Koller. That is as far as it goes. So we have a lot to discuss this week. I could do the running order, but it feels like all the energy's gone. So I'll just go straight into it instead for a bit of a change. Let me know if you liked it or not. Matt_Aguilera at Twitter, and also FUTStock. and he's Lambo Mats with one T. So Matt, let's just talk about the weekend league. This is the least that I've played the weekend league, and I've pretty much made a commitment to myself that I'm going to play even less. I got my... Remember 2 weeks ago I suggested getting 8 wins because that's about as much as you need to play, and then that's a decent return. Takes you into silver, and it gives you, I believe, 10,000 coins and 2 decent packs. And I was like, for how much it takes you to get into the other upper echelons. But yes, obviously the rewards are far better, but it's how much time you want to put into it. But I found myself each week disliking it more and more. And obviously it comes from a results perspective, but it's just like how incredibly hard people make the weekend league for you. The amount of work you can put into a match, then somebody just does a counter and then the whole thing's over. Or they just ride it out to penalties, and it feels like such a coin flip sometimes that, I haven't enjoyed it entirely. I love the challenge and the frustration in a way, but I don't like how it makes me feel. So we're coming back to that conversation again. That's my take on it. I'd be interested to know how you got on with the weekend league because of your heavy metal football agenda.
Yeah, I was particularly excited to play weekend league after my revelation of watching Ms. Yarhitch last week. And I dare say that implementing his tactics, I definitely saw a difference. I was much more effective going forward. I was scoring more goals. However, you are still vulnerable to the same old counter-attacking bullshit tactics. And that is very frustrating. And what I've sort of come to the conclusion of in Weekend League is it's not necessarily about how good you are at the game, but there's certain players that are going to give you an edge in Weekend League. The kind of thing I'm referring to is like when you, as far as you're concerned, defending perfectly, you've got people lined up where you want them, you don't have any obvious vulnerabilities, and then you'll go into like a one-on-one challenge with a striker, let's say someone like Martial, who I have a constant headache with, or you could substitute him for Musa or someone like that. And you tackle them what appears to be cleanly, yet they'll recover before your player even gets off the ground. So essentially, you might have to tackle them 2 or 3 times, which gives you an enormous disadvantage through no fault of your own. And
do you think it's unbalanced then? Sorry, I know you were going to say some more, but do you think it's unbalanced? Because on paper, it seems like it, but maybe when you're on the receiving end of it, it feels quite horrible. But actually, on balance and being as objective as you can be, maybe it isn't unbalanced. I just wondered how you feel about it.
I don't know. I can't say that I have the absolute answer to that. I'm just highlighting my personal frustrations with it. And I do hear it off a lot of other people who say the exact same thing. The amount of times they'll get done by cheap, sweaty players, let's say. And it's not even a case of just spamming through balls and getting on the end of them. It's how they ride challenges, recover too quickly. Or you just get that in-the-box pinball whereby you seemingly don't have any control on the outcome whatsoever. It's really frustrating. And you'll get a lot of that in the weekend league, primarily because players are much better at keeping possession. So once they get to your area, it's really difficult to get the ball out a lot of the time if you're playing someone who's half decent because of the type of player that they use. And that is the most frustrating and disenchanting part of Weekend League. Is you can do seemingly everything right, but if they have the right type of player, there's nothing you can do about it. So conversely, doesn't matter how good you are, you kind of need to have a certain type of team or players in certain positions to do well. So we're talking, let's say, centre-back wise, you need these sort of high 70s or early 80s pace defenders who aren't massive in stature, so they can recover quicker from tackles, more lightweighty ones. So you're talking like Eric Bailly and Koscielny, etc., etc. Not necessarily the best defenders on the game, but they fit a certain prototype that are very, very effective. So it's basically forcing you to play one way, and this is going to come into a section we're going to do a little bit later on, pay to win. But that's essentially what the Weekend League is now. You're going to have to pay a certain amount up front to get a team of a certain caliber to be competitive, to get these weekly and monthly rewards. And ultimately, you have to try and work out, is it worth my time and is it worth my money to get these perceived amazing rewards? Yes, they're better than what you get from playing divisions, but is it worth it ultimately? And of course, that all depends on your success ratio and how much you cherish your free time at the weekend. And I've come to the conclusion, I really enjoy playing Weekend League in general. I don't like the emotional up and downs that it delivers, unfortunately. That makes me feel like a piece of shit sometimes. So I'll go from exhilarating highs to desperate lows when I'm playing Weekend League. And whenever you get that low, your control pad is at risk.
Yes.
And ultimately, it's kind of like affecting what I want my weekend to be, which is more relaxing. I had a typical schedule on Saturday where, I'd go get my chores done in the morning, and then I'd watch Soccer Saturday, Jeff Stelling and the gang. I play a bit of daily fantasy sports or fantasy football, all stuff I really enjoyed that FIFA never interfered with until now. Now, since the Weekend League has started, it's all I've done every weekend, and it needs to stop, unfortunately. So people can say, well, Mitch, you're old and you've got a different life to us and blah, 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 blah. That's fine. We're saying it doesn't suit me.
Yeah, we're not saying don't go and play the Weekend League. We're just saying that this is a consideration that many people will have to make.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's quite clever by you, and this isn't a criticism. It's actually very smart on their part, and I give them due respect for it. They've managed to make the game so compelling that it's all you want to do with your spare time. In years gone by, you might play a fuckload of FIFA, but you still will do other things that we can, and even play other video games. At this point, all I'm wanting to do is play FIFA because of what they've put into the Weekend League. And I really want to challenge myself by trying to do well in it. But ultimately, it's taking away everything else that's of interest to me. So I'm not saying I'll never play the Weekend League again. But when I do get around to playing it again, I'll be far more ruthless in my team selection. I will go sweaty and pay to win when I need to. But ultimately, I want my Saturdays back in particular. It's taking up way too much of my time. So I'll probably never do a complete 40-game weekend ever. Like I say, I consistently get into silver. And I think I'm okay with that now. Now I've realised that gold and elite are beyond me in terms of the amount of time I need to commit to it. I'll just crack silver every week, get a few free informs, get a few packs, get a few coins, and that'll be just fine.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it whatsoever. It is a consideration in terms of time, and also if it's having such an effect, that's what everything you're talking about is addiction. It's exactly the same. So this is very serious PSA, I should say, really. And I think anybody who has experience in this would be confident in backing me in what I'm about to say, which is that you could have talked about beer, cocaine, gambling, or anything of that online shopping, applying for credit cards to try to get away with all kinds of schemes. You can replace any of those words with another addiction. It's exactly the same thing. We are in the throes of addiction, and addictions that aren't related to a substance don't get taken very seriously, even though I am not a professional in this, so there's a caveat there. Go and do your own research on this kind of thing as well. But addiction, like gambling addiction, is seen as exactly the same in terms of the nuance of how it works and how it affects the brain is incredibly similar. Unfortunately, what happens with alcoholism, of course, is there are genuine medical effects that come from the poison that alcohol can be. Whereas with an addiction to gambling or online gaming, it can have exactly the same kind of detrimental effects where you say things like, just using you as an example because it's what we're talking about, and I have had this experience as well, so I'm not trying to say you're alone and make an example of you. I have these experiences too. You know, these things you talk about in terms of like, oh, I used to do these things, but now I only do this, and I want to go back to what I had. That is exactly how an alcoholic talks about how, or a gambler who's a Gamblers Anonymous will talk about how their life has said, oh, I used to have all these interests and now I only do this and I want to go back to it. But of course, we find it very hard to break the cycle. So in essence, I'm not saying it's the weekend league. That heightens it because of the rewards. Somehow the rewards to us have become as much as basically waiting for like your number to come up on roulette. It is exactly the same process that goes on in your brain. It is, again, caveat, I'm not professional, but I'm very good at this kind of thing. This is what I look into quite a lot. So we're being exposed as our pieces of biology, and we're being, I'm going to say exploited, but that obviously, I hope you know what I mean by that. Like, it's like a life hack that they found out and they're using it against
it's like social engineering. They know exactly what they're doing. It's not an accident that people feel this way. They've got researchers and psychologists involved. They know the effects of everything they do with Ultimate Team.
Absolutely. So the things that you're going through, I am sure what we're talking about right now, other people are going through it as well. And somehow by having the market, the coins, the packs, the rewards, all that plays into it. Feels like to me, there is no difference to how this feels to poker, other than, you know, admittedly, this is not an advert for gambling. And when I say I don't condone it, I'm not trying to be like parental or trying to tell you what to do, but just for the purpose of clarity, I would not advise anybody to do this. But at least if you were to play poker, maybe there's a chance you can get your money back at some point, or even make a profit if you get lucky, so to speak. We're actually spending money to get bloody packs and stuff like that, or to get more of these rewards, which all feels good.
I think the thing with the science with this is, it's not, I don't think it's an addiction for me, but I can appreciate the comparisons that you make. Let me explain what I'm saying, because I totally appreciate your point of view on it, and I'm not disagreeing with it at all. But for me, when it comes to Weekend League, I'm regularly sat in front of my screen and can't bring myself to play it often enough, which is why I'm thinking it's not an addiction, but it is ego enticing for me, because in my head, I'm a really good FIFA player. Compared to the elites, I'm shit, but in my head, I'm great. So the Weekend League is constantly prodding at me to prove myself, and I probably get really peed off when it shows me up for not being quite as good as I think I am in my head. But it keeps enticing me back in because, okay, you've found a new tactic, you found new players, come and test it and see if you're as good as you think you are. And that's where it reels me back in. But I can totally appreciate the addictive nature and comparisons that you've just been talking about. And I think it's important that we have a lot of young people who watch FUTStock and might not be entirely aware of the type of feelings they're experiencing and the emotions that come up when they play Weekend League. And I'm not saying it's the end of the world if you play a 40k weekend, but do take a little bit seriously about some of the stuff that Matt in particular has just said about how this can lead to worse things down the line and ultimately make you more unhappy. You need to have balance ultimately. If you can put a lot of hours into the Weekend League, that's fine, but also find some time to do other things that make you happy as well. Because if you just use all your free time on this, like a lot of people will do, it's not going to end well.
No, and this is something I feel I need to say. The thing you're saying, the way you're talking about it, and then you're saying, well, it's not like this because of this. Those are exactly the things you do say when you're in addiction.
I know. I knew you were going to say that.
I don't look. Please, for the love of God, don't take my word for it. I'm not caveating to try and make myself look holier than thou, but I aren't a professional. But I do know loads about addiction. I do know, and I'm very well versed on psychology and psychotherapy and that kind of thing.
Well, it's probably great that I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks then, because
I genuinely think if you're away for 2 weeks, yes, it will disconnect you. You will break the habit. There's a habit formed here. Now, this conversation that we're having right now, which is in front of our FUTStock fans, who I respect so much, I'm so grateful that they take the time to listen to it. And I know some people have had issues of me being like negative about certain things like that, which is totally fine. But I'm only expressing my opinion. And if you don't like my opinion, you can fuck off. Like I don't mean that lightly. It's okay if my opinions don't suit you, you don't enjoy listening to them. I would advise you to do anything else. And I mean for your benefit, it's for benefit for the both of us. But seriously now, this whole thing with FIFA makes me realise that how much of a bad habit it is for me, and how poisonous it is for me. And I'm using those as analogies rather than trying to say that there's something that's toxic about it. But actually, the whole way it all goes. If we're talking about an online poker site, people wouldn't think it was strange what we're saying, because people are so well versed in a lot of people are well versed in what's going on with gambling. Yes, it's a very serious thing, and we're not just talking about packs, are we? We're talking about the your reward mechanism, which I forget what you would term it as, but the same thing that would in lab rats, where they reward them with a treat by giving them an electric shock.
Yeah, it's like a whole Pavlov's dog type thing.
Yeah, well, what would happen is that it would have a determined number of how many shocks they need to get a treat, and they will shock themselves to death based on the fact that they think it's gambler's fallacy. Well, if I keep pressing the button, then it's going to come eventually. And all these things that we tell ourselves, our ego is very good at trying to get us to do things and trying to hypnotise ourselves. For example, if you were an online poker player, you would go and read a forum, and then you'd say, right, I've got a strategy now. I'm just going to play tournaments. I'm going to play this style that this guy's put up on this thing, where all he does is play these hands in these situations. That's all I'm going to do, and that's going to make me more of a winner. And then what actually happens is you go get into the situation, and the emotions kick in, the addictive side of it kicks in. Obviously, they lose a cool or whatever, or the results. Let's just say they don't lose a cool, and the results go their way, and that has a detrimental effect as well. Obviously, when I started off this conversation with you, we did the introductions, and we said offline before we were recording, do you know what? Actually, maybe it's boring to keep talking about the weekend league. But actually, I think this is the most important thing we talk about, and this aspect of it as well. And when I think about these young people watching this, if I was your older brother, for example, or your cousin or something, or somebody you trusted, you know, I would be totally comfortable with you saying to me like, do you know what, the weekend league, it's not really working out for me. I don't know whether buying packs is working out for me. And I'd be totally comfortable saying, that's a really good idea. I think just take a break and then see how you feel about it in the future. But what happens with people who have addictions, such as alcoholism or gambling, that kind of thing, if for some people they can't return to it because it's too toxic and it triggers off these awful things, and it creates a pathway to the old habits. Whereas in most habits, you'd say it take approximately 28 days to make whatever it is, a positive or a good habit. Sorry, a positive or negative habit. But with these addictions, the pathways are still there, apparently, which is very armchair psychology, admittedly. But yeah, I didn't mean to talk for that long, but that's just what came out of me. I just feel it's dead important to talk about. That's the one thing I'd like to. That's the note I'd like to leave it on.
Yeah, I think we should make it clear that we don't particularly hate the weekend league. I actually think it's great. It's just not good for me, and I guess you agree with that. It's not good for you either. So,
I genuinely think I should quit it. I think my life will be better.
Yeah, me too. I won't quit it, but I'm definitely going to scale back my involvement, and my aspirations within it will be significantly diminished going forward. I mean, it would probably be the best thing ever for me if instead of a weekend league, it was a week league. So maybe I'd play 4 or 5 matches at the weekend to qualify, and then the rest of the week as a league. That would be wonderful, because free time in the week is it's throwaway, but at the weekend it's much more precious to me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of people.
It is for me as well, Mr.
If they did it that way, great. I don't think playing many hours of competitive FIFA on a Saturday is going to work for me long term. So that's where we'll leave it. But just to sort of round that off, if there's people out there who enjoy playing Weekend League but do have sort of mixed emotions about it, it's important that you don't feel like you can't talk to people about it, or it's bad to feel weird about it, because it's not. I see it on Twitter constantly, and it's so many ups and downs. When you're winning, it's wonderful. When you get the rewards, it's great. But there's so many prolonged periods in between where it makes you feel quite bad. And it's okay to feel that way as far as I'm concerned. Don't feel that just because you're a massive Ultimate Team fan, that your entire schedule has to revolve around the Weekend League. It's there for the people who can do it, mainly competitive FIFA players who do it for a living on Twitch and YouTube and stuff. It's not for everybody. And there's plenty of other modes you can go and play as and when it suits you. Divisions gives you lots of coin rewards. Foot Draft gives you packs. There's different ways to get your kicks out of it. So don't feel that you have to be chained to the Weekend League. That's what all we're saying.
Absolutely. And if any of these experiences that we're talking about kind of register with you, don't trick yourself and tell you, oh, it's not as bad as I think. Investigate it and have a think about it. And if you can, tell a trusted person that you know. You know, and I don't know exactly who I'm talking to here. I'm talking to the FUTStock community, who I have so much respect for and so grateful that they listen to our podcast. But that could be anybody from a 40-year-old kid to a 40-year-old man, as far as I'm concerned. So when I don't mean to be condescending, I'm just trying my best to round it up and just say, like, you know, tell somebody about it and have a talk about it with someone that you trust, who may be older or younger. That it doesn't really matter, as long, you know, that's that kind of thing. And also, some of the things I've talked about are symptoms that are consistent with what Gamblers Anonymous would say were addiction. So when it comes to packs, especially, if you do that kind of thing and this is what's happening, I would go and look at Gamblers Anonymous seriously and look at the symptoms of, and if you have so many of them, then you are considered to be a gambling addict. So look into that. Just forget about the gambling part for now, but look into that. And obviously, if you do need any kind of help with it, just admitting it and talking about it is the biggest thing you can do. You don't
I think
want
one thing we should do is perhaps next year, once Christmas and stuff's out of the way, we can go away and research this much more thoroughly, and maybe we'll do a one-off about the sort of addictive nature of FIFA and the science behind opening packs and stuff, because there's definitely stuff in there that people need to know about that they've perhaps not considered. But I think for now, let's talk about something slightly more uplifting.
Yeah, let's do that. Is there any way to lift ourselves off it? Okay, let's talk about the market. There's been a recovery, so hopefully you've gone out, you've got your shopping list, you've gone and bought some nice players, and now the players that you've bought and didn't get along with during Black Friday, you can sell for a profit, mate.
Yeah, Black Friday's been and gone. It was less of a crash and more of a downward long curve, but it spiked back up relatively quickly after the last Weekend League ended, or at least as it was beginning. If you were selling players perhaps on the Friday night or Saturday, you were able to make an enormous amount of profit from stuff that you bought over Black Friday, or perhaps discard informs it had been gathering dust in your club. So now is a really good time to have a look at players in your club who you're perhaps not using very often, who are perceived to be high value. So let's say 80 plus rated informs, that sort of thing. And just have a look on Futbin at what the prices of them are currently, because I've sold a lot over the last few days for 3 or 4 times what I'd bought them for. So it's a really good time to sell now, because particularly as each weekend end league approaches, people are prepared to pay a little bit more for players. Like, for instance, I bought a 9-go one for about 30k about a week ago, and after I was done with the weekend league just gone, I sold him for like 47k, which for non-informs, significant profit indeed. So I was really pleased with that. But that's just one example. There's plenty of others out there. So take a look at the players who are taking up space in your club you're not too bothered about playing with, and just see if you can flip them for a good profit, because the prices will come down again in a few weeks' time for Team of the Year. So if you've got players you know you're not going to keep long term, now is a great time to get rid of them, to reload your bankroll, ready for the next big market splurge, which would be Team of the Year in early January.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Black Friday worked out great for me. Pulled some good players in the packs that I got. Also, I went and did some shopping, and it's worked out quite nicely. Players have gone up in price. A few players that I picked up didn't work out so well. I sold them and made a bit of profit. I think, you know what, it's worked out quite nicely, and it's gone exactly how we said it would, which is quite refreshing, because last year, I seem to recall it didn't actually go that way.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. But things have been slightly more predictable this time around. But yeah, I think now is a good time to sell again. Now that the market has recovered as much as it's probably going to prior to Team of the Year.
Yeah, it can only really go. It's actually what actually happens with the value of stock in FIFA is it gradually goes down over the year anyway, and then obviously falls off a cliff around May time after Team of the Season comes out. Then everything's at the all-time lows. There's so many amazing players at Discord, that kind of thing. So yeah, take advantage of it and get the ones you believe that you're not going to use and would like to get some coins from to reinvest in the future. It's time to sell them now and start thinking about who on earth you're going to pick up in the later end of January.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfectly done. So we've got something far more interesting to talk about now in terms of what it does for us philosophically. Those well-known Russians and their ever so tolerant ways and love of life that basically is traditional. There's been a selection of Russian MPs who have a huge issue with something that's happened in FIFA 17 Mets. And it's very sad that this has happened, I would say, actually. It doesn't seem quite right. Yeah,
a little bit of interesting news that's broken the last 24 hours, isn't it? And we were talking about this on last week's podcast, how the rainbow kit, at least to us, sort of came out of nowhere, but apparently this was a much more well-known thing that was going on. We were just under a rock.
Yeah, we just didn't. Yeah, our apologies for not knowing it, of course, but it's just something that passed us by. It's just, as it so happens. But yes, it was the Stonewall Rainbow Laces Weekend campaign, which a lot of people did tell us about. So obviously, which is a good thing. It's obviously in the lexicon of language that happens in football.
Indeed. So Rainbow kit, I'm not a massive fan of. Not the message behind it, literally just the aesthetics of the kit don't work for me, and it clashes with everything. So not a fan of the kit, but I like the message that it conveyed, and the EA doing something that helps some section of the community is always a good thing. So Russian ministers have come out and said that this is an attack against traditional family values in Russia, and that they think FIFA should be banned as a result, which is absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, talking about it from a kind of political level, obviously, I'm all for liberty, free choice, and expression, that kind of thing. So this is completely an antithesis to my values, which I believe are very reasonable and grounded, and respect the choice that people have. And also, I mean, they termed it as a gay propaganda, which is ludicrous, really. It's all about trying to get people to talk openly about homosexual LGBT community, but also about homophobia, which is prevalent in a very lampooned and cartoonish way in football. Like it's like ridiculous that for some reason, because it's football, that people turn into 90 minute bigots, which is a phrase coined for a wonderful documentary about sectarianism in Scotland on Vice. And that obviously happens with the LGBT community as well. So obviously, how could you not be in full support of it unless you have a problem with people's lifestyle choices which have no effect on you? These ministers they are completely backwards. It doesn't really serve a purpose to help society, and to ban a game based on a very simple message that is optional for you to take part in. I don't get their point, and it's very sad. And as somebody pointed out on the Foothead article that talked about this, they said something along the lines of they have the World Cup in 2 years. But this isn't but anybody who knows about Russia and their politics, admittedly, this is only 2 ministers who've spoken about it in this way and spoken about banning the game. You know, this actual non-respect of people's right to expression isn't a surprise to most people about Russia. And of course, the World Cup is being held there. And yeah, this is a worrying side of the attitude that happens in Russia.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that this isn't a reflection of Russia as a whole, but some of their policies on human rights issues and whatnot are a little bit behind the times. And it's fair to say that this particular outburst is a little bit of political rabble-rousing by certain MPs who are probably just trying to create awareness of themselves and probably saying, look, if you don't like gays, come and vote for me because I want to get rainbow kits out of FIFA, which is absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, what are things you could play, but like how inane is it, and how little does it actually do in life? Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty mundane. It just goes to show that these particular MPs are absolute knobs. I don't think it's going to have any effect on FIFA Ultimate Team at all. But the fact that they would try and get some sort of party political win out of this is really quite sad. I'd like to think Russia's youth would see through it, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Let's hope that they do, and also that World Cup 2018 is actually a massive success for them. And then there's another interesting piece of news. It's something that you discovered over the weekend, Mets, that is about hunter cards. You need to tell us about this one. Have we missed a trick here?
Well, I don't know if we've missed a trick, but I actually said this was going to happen right at the beginning of the season. I just thought it would have happened a lot earlier than it has, but seemingly the popularity of hunter cards has finally been twigged by the community at large. And at least at the weekend, I don't know, it's like right this minute as we're recording, but at the weekend, they were all price capped at 5k. And when I checked, there was only one on the market at any one time. So they're basically all being bought up. So essentially, hunter cards became extinct and they're getting harder and harder to obtain. And if the stat boosts that are reported on sites like Foothead are accurate, and I have my doubts whether they are, I think you disagree with me. You disagree with me, but
yes, I
don't think they're as good as they say they are. But anyway, that's just me. If they are as good as they say they are, then it makes absolute sense that you should put hunter on every attacking player and get an enormous boost on them. And it's no surprise that they're sold out. And again, if they are as good as they say they are, the price needs to be increased, because back in earlier Ultimate Teams, when we thought hunter was good and it actually didn't do anything because of Kenny, they were going for 10k a pop. Now they're price capped at 5. I think it's probably time to raise the cap, because it is by far the most effective chemistry card, statistically speaking, if it is indeed effective at all. So if you've got hunter cards lying around in your club and you've got no intention of using them, sell them. And if you're looking to buy a hunter to put on a player, it's probably cheaper to go to the market and buy the player that's already got hunter applied. It's probably going to save you a lot of money that way.
Yeah, very good point. Just try out Informed Jermaine Defoe with hunter. Just try it, then I'm sure you'll be completely blown away by just how effective hunter is. I'm disappointed. I wish I could buy some more cards. Is there any other tricks that we can get out of this? Is the price... Well, the cap will rise, surely.
You'd think so. Depends if the demand is sustained long enough for EA to tweak the market accordingly. But it does sort of bring to providence something that basically it's always been my number one trading technique, which was buying players that have hunter applied already for. If you can get certain cards that are cheap but quite popular, and the type of players that people will always want, like Ben Yedders and Rashfords and stuff like that, if you can get them around 2k, it's an easy flip for 3.5k to 4k. And now's the best time ever to do that, because the price of the player with the hunter combined is always going to be far less than just a hunter on its own, so they should be quite easy to flip. So if anyone's looking for a trading technique, players with hunter already applied, don't just buy literally anybody, and certainly don't buy ones that have got informs, because they won't shift. But popular players with hunter applied will always sell, providing that you price them fairly.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Shame the cards are going to go extinct. I'm going to have to go and buy some now. But with that, Mets, there has been a new squad building challenge announced that actually is quite tasty, and so does the reward. And it's all to do with the MLS. And there's certain somebody with a little soul patch who's won an award. Mets, who is it? Who is it? Who is it?
It's David Villa, our favourite Spanish striker.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, seems like a nice sort. Looks after his mum, I'm sure.
I'm sure he probably does. So yeah, the squad builder went live about an hour before we started recording, so I've done it. Had a bunch of MLS players lying around, and it requires you to have a squad. I think it's 76 rated, which doesn't sound very high, but when you get the other caveat, which is 11 different nationalities, it basically means you can only use one American player. So you're probably going to have to use Tim Howard, and then source out a bunch of other high-rated MLS players, which is more difficult than you would think, because I managed to do the challenge and still have players like Jelle Van Dam left over. I managed to sell them for 10k, bin, capped, maxed out, gone. So this is a great time to sell players in your club that are MLS but not American necessarily. Or if you have a Tim Howard you don't want anymore, he will shift quite a lot of money as well. And this is the key when you look at the squad builder, because David Villa is a really good card. But if you don't play a Spanish hybrid or an MLS team, when are you going to use it? And if you don't have the players lying around, it's going to be very expensive to complete this, given that there's a full league MLS special player squad building challenge going on now. Yeah. So a lot of players are artificially expensive anyway. And then, of course, you have this special David Villa card. It's going to be really hard to do if you don't have the players already in your club for a fair price, I would say. So it's not one that I would necessarily do out of obligation. You've definitely got to weigh up whether it's worth it or not. But if you're the type of player like me who likes to do these challenges for the sake of completedness, it's a really nice card. I mean, David Villa has always been an out-and-out finisher, but just having a look at some of the stats on this. So 92 position, 92 finishing, 85 shot power. And the most important stat on David Villa for me is 5-star weak foot, which basically means he's as good on his left or his right peg. So definitely probably the best Spanish striker you can get for an all-Spanish team, and definitely the best MLS out-and-out striker. Giovinco is probably going to be a bit more sweat-tastic, but Villa is definitely the better all-round player. But yeah, you really got to weigh up the cost before you do this. You might find it's a better proposition to, if you've only got a few of the players you need, just to sell them and make a few K and just let this one pass by. But totally up to you. Yeah,
I don't think I'm going to be doing it. I think it's going to be too expensive, and I can't see myself using a Spanish team and then using VA. I just don't see it happening. If it's not that, if I can work out to do it in a cheap way, depending on who's in my club, then maybe it'd be a good idea to do it. There you go. I added nothing to that conversation. I apologise.
That's what I'm here for. You do some talking, I do some talking.
Yeah. So we move on to what we talked about earlier is the pay to win. You are suggesting that isn't just the way it is, and even is it that bad? So I'll give you the floor, Mets, to state your case.
Yeah. So a bit of context to this. Perhaps over the last couple of years, people have looked down upon others who just spam packs and, have Ronaldo's, Messi's and Legends in the first couple of weeks of the game. They've obviously just thrown a few grand at it and just made themselves a shit-hot team. And quite often I find that when I play against squads who have top-tier players everywhere, that the actual person controlling them is really shit at the game.
It happens a lot more than I expect. It really does.
So... But we're kind of getting to this point now with FIFA whereby it's so ingrained into the mainstream now. Ultimate Team's the go-to mode most people play. It's very difficult to be competitive without spending money on the game, and that's regardless of your skill factor. And I was watching a guy streaming, and this guy's name is Pugzilla. Really good streamer, by the way, very entertaining. But he was very open and honest about the fact that he does pay to win. He uses it as a mantra. Every time he scored a goal, it's like, pay to win, baby, pay to win.
I quite like that, actually.
It was really funny. And he made no apologies for the fact that, he'd invested a shitload of money to get Pele and wasn't necessarily that good with him. But he's in the Division 1, and he definitely isn't good enough to be there, but his team is. So I think the argument is, should we accept that FIFA it's no longer just a competitive game with a pay for DLC component to it or consumable component, that it is actually now you will have to invest a certain amount of money to be successful in this game, and that's just the way it is now. Because it's different than when we started, because if we threw a few £100 at Ultimate Team, there's going to be certain periods of the year where we weren't playing FIFA, we'd be playing other things. So that money essentially goes to waste. Now, given what we were just talking about with the weekend league and how much it invokes all of your free time, is it so bad that you've actually invested money because the amount of hours you put into it versus the financial investment, perhaps it doesn't seem so bad?
Well, the thing is, it's always pay to win is actually shortcut. That's exactly what it is, especially in FIFA, because there is a way of accumulating the coins and getting the players in a legitimate fashion. They aren't just there's the barrier to entry, isn't it? You have to pay for coins to get this, and also for the first time ever, really, we're getting so many free rewards, which is why we're all gravitating towards the weekend league and hoping to get informs and whatnot. So yeah, it's quite fascinating, really, the whole pay to win thing. I would err on the side that actually it pretty much is, especially if you'd like to have a live, and also if you are a reasonable player. It obviously stands to reason that you'd prefer to have Aubameyang over someone like Perez through the Premier League. And obviously the best way to be able to get someone like Aubameyang and quickly is buy a load of packs, because one, you're either going to get the coins from selling the players that you do pull, and then you reinvest it to players you do want, or you will actually get them in packs. So yeah, I can't see a real argument against the fact whether it's a play to win. You certainly don't have to enjoy the game and play it and be reasonable or even excellent, but for the most part, yeah, it's very much play to win. And it's something that has become, it's quite incendiary, really. It's just an insidious, should I say. It's just kind of happened to us, and all of a sudden we're getting our credit cards out and we're spending money on a game that we've already paid for. It's quite ludicrous when you put it in that context, because I have never spent a penny to get a supply drop on Call of Duty. I just won't bother.
Well, it's all about how passionate you are about the game in general, and how much you're willing to pay to bypass a certain amount of time it takes to get something that you want. And there's no way in hell that you can, let's say if you wanted several legends and Ronaldo in your team, you will not get there just by playing the game. You can't luckily pack all of those players. It just won't happen. And there's always so much trading you can do to attain that level of sophistication in your squad. So if you want those players, like I like FIFA, I want 7 legends and I want Ronaldo, you're going to have to pay for it, and you're going to pay for it and you have no guarantee of actually getting it. And that's the danger. It would be one thing if it was just a case of, let's say, we had a marketplace whereby, well, you can buy all of these cars and you know exactly what it's going to cost. And God knows what Ronaldo would cost. It would be more than £1,000 probably.
Well, in terms of so between me and you, you have packed a Ronaldo, or is it a Messi you've packed?
I haven't packed Ronaldo or Messi for several years. There was one edition of Ultimate Team where I packed 2 Ronaldos and 2 Messis in one season, but that was very early on.
Right, so I've been playing since FIFA 09. Was it FIFA 10 that came out? I can always forget.
FIFA 09.
Yeah, so I'm a FUT founder. I've never pulled Messi or Ronaldo. In fact, I think the highest non-informed player I've ever pulled was Neuer this season. But he's a 92, but he's a goalkeeper, so it doesn't feel quite the same. And especially in terms of his coin value, I've pulled players who are less in terms of their rating, but obviously are more valuable. So to put that in context, I think one year I must have spent maybe £2,000. Like on FIFA 15, I spent an unbelievable amount of money. and I had loads of coins, and obviously I spent them on packs and stuff as well. I'm trying to buy players, and it was just ludicrous. So I've never pulled a Ronaldo or I think the highest rated player I've pulled was a team of the season, Alexis Sanchez, who was a 93. But I do believe they're easier to get than Ronaldo and Messi.
Yeah, I think the best one I've pulled in recent memory, I got the striker Robin during the first time that they did a tournament, international tournament version of Ultimate Team. It was a couple of years ago.
Striker Robin.
And that was a very expensive card. And that was when we had hyperinflation on the market and stuff as well, which seems like those days might be coming back, at least temporarily. But anyway. But yeah, it's not a moan about pack weighting or anything like that. It's just a case of where is it sensible to draw the line in terms of how much it's okay to spend on FIFA. And ultimately, that's down to the individual. If you're a high earner with lots of spare time in your hands, throw $1,000 at FIFA if that's what makes you happy. I think where it gets dangerous is we'll have people streaming and doing YouTube videos of just like smashing packs over and over again, which sort of glamorizes pay to win for youngsters, and they think that that's okay at their age, where they should be probably saving for their first car or going out on the piss and trying to meet girls. They're probably wasting 50 quid on FIFA points, and it's probably having a negative effect on their on their adolescence, let's say.
I do say it does, yeah. I think there's lots of things you could be doing other than spending money on packs, pay to win. I don't actually think, whilst it's a very good thing for the developers, it's not really a good thing for the community. I just don't think it is. The more I think about, because if we didn't have any paying for packs, then we'd have a lot more of a level playing field, and you would have people playing, I don't know, 81 rated strikers. You'd be like, oh wow, unbelievable! Someone's got an 84 rated player. Isn't that strange? It'd be nice to see that in some ways, but maybe not.
Well, there's a very good chance that in next week's team, which comes out tomorrow as we're recording, a player I think is probably going to get an inform is William Carvalho from Sporting. He's an 84 rated CDM. It should be pretty close to God tier, really. He comes up and packs quite a lot, and he's only worth 600 to 700 coins. An 84 rated super CDM. And, some people could say, well, that's an argument that pay to win isn't necessarily required. Perhaps it's not. But no one wants William Carvalho is the point. Everyone wants Mateus or Vieira or someone like that.
Of course they do.
So
that's exactly the problem.
Way to get them is to pay for them.
Yeah, get your wallets out, get your credit cards out. Gamblers Anonymous isn't that far away.
Sorry, I'm not advocating spending FIFA points on your credit card.
We actually say don't spend any money on packs at all. It's very hard to recommend it. Well, how could I recommend it? Spend money on virtual goods that you can't get any money back for, and there's a chance that you will get something that there's an overwhelming chance you'll get something that you do not want.
Yeah, if you break it down logically like that, the very notion of spending money on FIFA points is absurd. However, we're dealing with an illogical, well, you could say it's an addiction or at least a dependency on enjoying FIFA. And to enjoy FIFA, you need to have a team of a certain caliber. So pay to win, I think, is here to stay, and not just in FIFA. I think this is going to be the norm in just about every major gaming franchise going forward.
Yes, indeed. So with that wraps it up nicely. Pay to win, horrible. And now it's time for us to talk about our novelty inform of the week with a Christmas candle. Lovely. So,
I hope that's a Christmas candle, not some sort of odd-looking sex toy.
Oh, God, there's glitter all over my fucking hands. Well, that was weird. None of you are going to thank me for doing that, aren't you?
Oh,
yeah, no. Well done. Well done.
Shall we talk about novelty player of the week?
Yes, I would like you to tell me about your pick for team of the week. Sorry, our novelty inform of the week in the form of a striptease.
Oh, jazz hands, very nice. Okay, so this is from week 11, so from last Wednesday, and again, another pretty good team of the week. There was lots of really good sort of discard value players. One has particularly stood out, though, particularly because since day one of the season, there's been the ability to go out and get that special version of Jonas from Benfica, but quite difficult to put him in a team that was going to be worthwhile. I don't rate Liga NOS this season much as I did last season. However, we do have a player that we can strong link to him now. Portuguese midfielder who was previously a right-sided midfielder by default and has now been moved into the central line, thank God.
Yes, because he's very good.
And we are referring to Pizzi of Benfica.
Yes, not related to Juan Antonio Pizzi, the old striker to play for Tenerife and Barcelona.
No, definitely not. But
probably is.
This is a really great card. I've managed to pick this one up, I think for about 15k, something like that. And he's a CM by default, but I think he's probably going to work best at cam. Very good pace, great dribbling, great shooting, all that stuff. And I think it's one of those ones where you could easily drop a hunter on it, although I've gone for sniper in terms of...
I love sniper cards.
I like on this because it rounds off all the crucial stats that you need. So his positioning goes up to 93, finishing 93, volleys 92, penalties 97, agility 92, balance 98, and 99 for dribbling. I mean, come on. It doesn't get much better than that.
There's much more to Ireland than this.
Exactly. Traits, he has flair, corner specialist, and technical dribbler.
I recall the very bad joke about technical dribbling. It didn't make us laugh.
Yes, Mr. Hawkin. The speciality of acrobat. So this guy's going to be immense on the ball. And I can imagine it working really well in something like a 4-4-1-1 with Jonas as the striker. Pizzi in the hole would work really nice. Or using him in something like a 4-3-3 number 4. So have him as your attacking midfielder and strong link to Jonas up front. I think it's a great card. Really great price, and because there's a lack of truly outstanding informs in Liga NOS, this will rise in value gradually over the season, at least until he gets another one. That's the one thing you've got to look out for. I mean, he's not the type of player who gets loads of informs, so I think this is a safe bet, a good investment, or something that you can use right now in a really strong team to link to your squad-built Jonas card that you got at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I didn't get him, so I couldn't comment, but I did like him last season, if that helps.
Yes, absolutely. I can't imagine him being worse than it was last season. You know, he's long shots for days, so if you like that kind of player.
Days, weeks, months, years. So, Matt, that's probably a good time to end it because I'm getting delirious. What the fuck?
You laughing at?
I don't know. I don't know. Glittery hands hasn't helped, but you know, that is the end of another FUTStock show.
Well, that went incredibly quickly. Of course, we're not going to be here next week because I'm in Prague, but we will be back for Christmas week, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. We might even try and squeeze in a couple of shows over Christmas and New Year, depending on what's going on. You know, we can only do as many shows as interesting stories come up about Ultimate Team, so we'll see how that goes. But we will be back for one on Christmas week.
Brilliant. I'd like to thank you for coming along. This tradition always has this thing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm spent, well and truly spent.
Fabulous. And also, it's very important that you are going away tomorrow to Prague, but it also is your birthday, so happy birthday, Mets.
Thank you very much. It's nice to celebrate my birthday on the show. How nice is that?
It is nice. And then I think, though your birthday boy, you should see us out with your patented yet stolen goodbye.
It is, folks. If we don't catch you before Christmas, have a great one. But until we speak to you next time, don't have nightmares.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.